Imagine a silent world, an environment that you can only observe visually. Cars passing on hot summer days, music blaring, birds chirping, children calling out, your phone rings. These are all parts of life that we take for granted, but from a census curated by Gallaudet University, 2.5 of all Hoosiers are deaf or hard of hearing. These individuals experience a different world than the rest of us. As a part of the majority of Americans, we are hearing individuals. Such minority, like the deaf population, are easily misunderstood or overlooked. As hearing people, it's our responsibility to spread truth and eradicate ignorance, to create empathy, understanding, and activism around the deaf community. The Indiana School for the Deaf, also called ISD, is a state-funded institution that works to bridge the gap between deaf youth and the hearing world. Hoosiers are capable of improving the relationship they have with the deaf community in Indiana. A central gathering point for deaf in Indiana that is open, informed, and welcoming is a great and accessible way to begin building the discourse. First, I will speak about the history and the origin of the school. After, I will explain the mission and the outreach programs offered by the school, and then I will cover the disparity experienced by deaf Hoosiers and the way the school is capable of helping. Growing up, attending public school, the days and the weeks and the years all sort of resembled each other, and it's fair to say the same about the past. The history of an educational system with the feat of teaching those who have an innate need to be taught differently is pretty colorful when in comparison to normal average public schooling systems. To start, it's important to explore a world that would be if deaf education didn't exist. In the 18th century, it was common to call deaf people who could not speak deaf and dumb. Of course, now this seems inappropriate and small-minded, and that would be true. Often children were forced to develop without any sort of language skills at all because they were too uncomfortable to explore alternative methods. In February of 1843, refinancing by the Indiana state government took $1 of every $1,000 collected by the taxes to put funding towards deaf education. William Willard and his wife Eliza began the Willard School with an initial enrollment of 12 people. By December, they made a state institution, allowing for more funding, which allowed for their school to reach more people. The school continued to prosper and curated a diverse and capable student body. In 1911, the construction to create the modern-day campus began. Today, the buildings are resting on 80 acres of lush land with arbors and streams recognized as historical landmarks. Indiana was the sixth state to create a state-funded school for the deaf and the first to offer that education for free. The advocacy that the school places on ASL separates it from the other schools, or at least it did back in the day. All institutions have a focus or a mission. Most of the time, it's something to increase their sales or make their sales important in one person's life or someone's life or a family's life. The intention of an educational facility is generally to help prepare their students for the next step of the real world, and the ISD is no different. Their vision, as stated by their website, is a bilingual educational environment conducive to the academic and social success of their students. About 60% of students at ISD are residential, meaning that they live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the school, immersed in the deaf community. Carol Patton, the author of the article Deaf, finds that a majority of deaf individuals are born deaf or experience early deafness, meaning that if they did have any hearing and absorbing language, it was very limited. She explores the irreplaceable importance of play and social interaction between developing children. Both of these fundamental developments are halted when a deaf child is not surrounded by those who can communicate and interact fluidly and naturally with him or her. ISD is entirely focused on breaking that mold and creating an environment that allows their students to flourish. As I mentioned, language is vital for the social and mental development of adolescents. For deaf individuals, this is most feasible through fluency in American Sign Language. Indiana School for the Deaf has a vast and diverse enrollment. Therefore, they have varying interests. Courses include art, reading, writing, math, history, music, all general courses we're all familiar with. ASL, the use of ASL has been a point of contention for years among the linguistic community. David Stewart states that until the late 20th century, common practice was to attempt to teach the deaf children using the audiology philosophy. This means that they were only spoken to as if they were hearing, and that no sort of alternative communication methods were put into place at all. Natural communication for a deaf child is to speak through gestures or hand movements like ASL. But many parents were scared and doctors did not recommend to go through that method or to search for any sort of alternative method rather than audiology philosophy. Sighting has been around for hundreds of years, and throughout history it's had high points and low points and public acceptance and popularity, but just in the past 20 years there's been a large increase of actual scientific research, and recently they've decided, or well not decided, but found that it is truly a language, a natural language that is capable of expressing complex and abstract ideas, both that are finite and not. Although change can be uncomfortable and language barriers are evident, the inclusion of the deaf community in Indiana is vital, and ISD is helping facilitate that. Hoosiers are capable of improving the relationship they have with the deaf community in Indiana. A central gathering point for the deaf in Indiana that is open, informed, and welcoming is a great and accessible way to begin building the discourse. There is an opportunity to create a more inclusive community in Indianapolis, and the Indiana School for the Deaf has been creating individuals capable and earnest to communicate for almost 2 centuries. With a rich history, beautiful campus, and devoted staff, the deaf youth in Indiana are given the chance they deserve to participate in society. It is easy to live comfortably and enjoy days as a functioning member of society. What's more difficult is to examine the neglected parts of society, the minorities that often go unseen. What is rewarding, to open your mind, heart, and arms to the people and situations that you normally sidestep.